Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to read the first part of chapter 3 of the Scarlet Letter, A Fatherless Child. Hester Prynne's time in prison now came to an end, but she did not move away from the town. The father of her child lived here, and here she would stay, although she kept this thought hidden guiltily in her heart. The reason she gave herself for staying was this: I sinned here, and I will suffer my earthly punishment here. There was a small cottage just outside the town, looking out across the sea towards the forest-covered hills of the west. And Hester and her child went to live in this lonely little house. They had no friends, but Hester soon found that she could earn enough money to buy food and clothes for herself and her daughter. She was clever with a needle, and the Scarlet Letter, which she wore on her bosom, was a perfect example of her work that everyone could see. Soon Hester's beautiful sewing, with its patterns in gold and silver thread, became the fashion with the rich and important people of the town. Her needlework was seen on the shirts of the governor, on the fine dresses of the ladies, on the babies' little coats and hats, and on the burial clothes of the dead. Hester had employment for as many hours as she wanted to work. She used whatever time she had left to make clothes for the poor people of the town, although she got no thanks for it. And indeed, she found no kindness anywhere. The Puritans of that time were hard judges, and a woman who had sinned as Hester had sinned was always an outsider. Every word, every look, every cold, accusing silence reminded her of the shame and lonely misery of her life. Even the children ran after her in the street, shouting terrible names. She lived very simply. Her own dresses were made from dark, sad-colored cloth, with a scarlet letter bright on the bosom. Her child's clothes were the opposite, in materials of deep, rich colors, with beautiful patterns sewn in gold thread. Her daughter's name was Pearl. She was a pretty child, but a child of many moods. One minute bright and happy and loving, the next minute dark and angry. A child of sin, she had no right to play with the children of godly families, and like her mother, she was an outsider. In a strange way, Pearl seemed to understand this, and often screamed and threw stones at the other children. Hester worried about her daughter's wildness and tried hard to correct her, but without much success. Sometimes her only hours of peace and quietness were when Pearl was sleeping. One day, when Pearl was about 3 years old, Hester went to the house of Governor Bellingham. She was taking a fine shirt she had sewn, but she also wanted to speak to the governor in person. She had heard that many Puritans in the town wanted to take Pearl away from her. They said it would be better for the child to grow up in a more godly home than Hester Prynne's. So it was a worried Hester who walked to the governor's house that morning. She had dressed her daughter in a beautiful red dress, adding to the child's natural beauty. And as Pearl danced along beside her mother, it had a strange effect. The child in her red dress seemed like a scarlet letter in another shape. The scarlet letter given life and movement. At the governor's house, the door was opened by a servant. "Is the governor in?" said Hester. "Yes," replied the servant, "but there are people with him at the moment. You can't see him now." "I'll wait," said Hester, and stepped into the entrance hall. The hall was wide with a high ceiling, and there were heavy chairs along one side and a long table in the center. At the far end of the hall was a big glass door, which opened out into a garden. Hester could see rose bushes and apple trees, and Pearl immediately began to cry for a red rose. "Shh! Be quiet, child," said her mother. "Look, the governor is coming down the garden path with 3 more gentlemen." Governor Bellingham, with his gray beard, walked in front. Behind him came John Wilson, the old priest, whose beard was as white as snow. And behind him was Arthur Dimmesdale, with Roger Chillingworth. The young priest's health had been poor for some time, and Roger Chillingworth, well known in the town for his knowledge of medicines, was now both his friend and doctor to him. And that is the end of part 1 of chapter 3 of the Scarlet Letter.